Hi everybody, thank you for attending. Before we get too further, can you just let me know that you can hear me and see me okay in the chat box below, please? Cool. But as a way of introduction, my name is Nick Craggs. I'm the AAT Distance Learning Director at First Intuition, so I don't do anything else other than AAT via distance learning. So hopefully you're all here for the advanced level synoptic webinar that we're running tonight. We will briefly touch the advanced level, but predominantly this webinar is more about the synoptic exam, which comes up at the advanced level. Now, the synoptics are a new thing for AQ 2016. This was a thing that's been brought in for funding reasons, if we're being honest. To qualify for the new trailblazing apprenticeships, there has to be this like end summative exam that tests on everything. It was introduced for funding reasons. The AT get an awful lot of money from apprentices and things like that, so it wasn't really their choice. But deep down, it is actually a good change because it brings everything together. It stops you just going from like one unit, sit the exam, pass it, forget it. Sit the exam, pass it, move on, forget it. It brings everything together, and it's a bit more like a real world thing that you're going to meet in the workplace, which hopefully should make you more employable. But we'll go into it a bit further into the webinar. Is anyone else finding me a little bit quiet? Is everyone else can hear me okay? So I'll try and speak a bit louder then, Anne. If you can't turn them up any further. I've never been called quiet before. But anyway, right, let's get started, shall we? So, I assume you're all AQ 2016 students because if you're not, it's not really relevant to you. So you should be fairly familiar about AQ 2016 and how it's structured. But you see here that you've now got 6 units. There was 6 units on AQ 2013 previously. They've just got different names. So accounts preparation is now known as advanced bookkeeping. Final accounts preparation for sole traders and partnerships is no longer a mouthful. It's just final accounts preparation. Cost and revenues and management accounting. And you've got indirect tax, which is all about VAT. And then you've got the lovely ethics and spreadsheets. Now, much like AQ 2013, you'll study advanced bookkeeping and then you'll sit an exam on it. And then you move on to final accounts preparation, which calls them really well, and you'll sit an exam on it, much like for the costing and indirect tax. However, unlike AQ 2013, ethics doesn't have an ethics exam anymore, nor do spreadsheets. Previously, you would have sat an exam on ethics, and then you would have sat an exam on spreadsheets. So they don't have their own individual exam. But those are tested in the synoptic exam. So in total, you've got 6 units to study. You've only got 5 exams. We see here at the advanced level that every single unit comes into the synoptic assessment. So you need to be able to sort of draw on all the knowledge that you've learned from the advanced level in the synoptic exam. You can't study a unit and forget about it because you will need to know it for the synoptic exam. So you can see here that each individual unit goes some way towards the overall grade level. You now get a grade level, which we'll come to, but you see the synoptic is a large part of that overall weighting because, to be fair, it does have 2 individual units in it. And you can see indirect tax is only a small one, it's only a small unit, and final accounts preparation is another small unit as well. But the large part of your overall assessment grade will be based on your synoptic assessment. So that's sort of an overview of AQ 2016 and the way it's structured. So you can't sort of pick and choose units like you used to be able to do because you really want to leave sort of ethics and spreadsheets until last because they're a large portion of the synoptic exam. So you really want to be up to speed with them. But and you've still got to be able to recall your advanced bookkeeping, final accounts, and all that knowledge for the synoptic exam as well. So you really need to have everything at the end of your fingertips. So, like I said, ethics spreadsheets have their own individual that don't have their own individual exam, it's only assessed in Synoptic, whereas the other four sort of mandatory units, they do have their own individual exam. Now, all the other exams are the usual length, but the Synoptic is now a 3-hour exam, which I'd be happy to hear about. So, for example, all the individual unit exams, so advanced bookkeeping, it's just like AQ 2013. You go to the exam centre, you sit the exam invigilator comes through within 5 minutes and say, well done, you passed. You find out straight away with them. With the Synoptic exam, there is some written elements you'll be happy to hear. And that means it's got to be marked by a human, which means that it will take 6 weeks to get your results. And when it says 6 weeks, it will be 6 weeks. The exam results are released on a Thursday, and you'll get them directly from your My AAT account. So you'll be able to go online and check to see if your results are there, and it'll give you a percentage. Now, we're going to come to grading in a bit, but one thing that AAT want to stress, that competency is still 70% on AQ 2016. It's the same pass rate as previously. So when you say you're AAT qualified, you should be just as good as anyone who says I'm AAT qualified on AQ 2013. That hasn't changed. You can get higher grades, but the main point is you pass, and the pass mark is still 70%. So the AAT really want to stress that. The overall competency of someone saying they're AAT qualified should be the same. Cool. Has anyone got any questions on that? I'll take the fact that no one's writing anything urgent as a no, and I'll move on. So, what kind of things are going to be tested? So it's not just about putting numbers in and getting getting the right answer. It's a bit more sort of looking at like a business holistically. And what will come up is you'll have to have an understanding of the role of the accounting organisation. It's a bit more where you sit within a business. Ethical behaviour, unfortunately, that's going to be there as well because it doesn't get tested anywhere else. Different business structures, and the thing is, it's not just about recommendations as to, like, for example, which VAT scheme would be most appropriate for a business. So you'll be given a scenario for each question, and you'll have to base your answers on that. So it won't just be, what's 20% of this number? It's here's a business. What would be the best VAT scheme for that business and why? Obviously, we've got spreadsheets. Again, that's only assessed in the Synoptic exam, so it's going to be a large proportion of the exam. Obviously, verify and protect data, manipulate data, present it. So it's just like we do on AQ 2013. So you enter data, you've got to do some formulas, put some graphs, got to make it look nice. And then another one that I think will come up a lot, use incomplete records. And to additional information. That's fine. And I will send out a recording of this to everyone afterwards. It probably won't be tonight, but I will send it out. So it'll be a mix of questions though. So you won't get, so one question is only on indirect tax. It'll be like indirect tax plus a bit of accounts prep plus a bit of ethics. So for example, what you could get is someone's made a VAT error, and the first question is, can they correct the error on the next VAT return? So that brings in your knowledge from indirect tax. Then they'll ask for the double entry to correct the error. So that brings in corrected journals from accounts preparation. And then they may ask, what happens if the person doesn't correct the error? At which point, this brings in your ethical knowledge and you've got to report them to the National Crime Agency. Yes, I will send out the PowerPoint as well after this. So yeah, it's not just one question is going to be accounts prep, one question is going to be indirect tax. It's going to be one question draws in on lots of different units. So one thing I want to stress is there is no standard style of question. So if you've got a training provider, they'll give you a mock of 2 or 3, I imagine. You've got the AAT mocks as well. Do them. However, do not expect that the mock that you've done will be like for like the real exam. So if you do accounts preparation, or advanced bookkeeping as it is called now, when you walk into that exam, you will see a fixed asset register. Task 3 will be accruals and repayments, and that task 6, the last task you have to do, will be an external trial balance. You know what's coming up, when it's coming up. It's just the numbers and dates have changed. It's not like that in the Synoptic exam. It could be advanced bookkeeping, ethics and indirect tax in task 1. It could be costs and revenues. It could be indirect tax, it could be final accounts, all brought together. You cannot expect that the mock exams that you have done will be exactly the same as the real Synoptic exam. Obviously, they are indicative of the types of questions you will get, but it's not a set format. It's not the kind of prescriptive AAT exams that we're all used to. You'll get different types of questions. It's not just multiple choice, drag and drop. You might get a really big question on a small subject. You might get lots of little questions. It might be broken up. It will expect to have detailed knowledge of lots and lots of different subjects from different units. And the main thing is there will be written questions there. So they are aimed for people like yourself to explain to someone who's not an accountant accounting concepts. So it's not just can you do a flex budget from your management accounting costing unit. It may well be can you explain what a flex budget is and why we do it. So it's getting that information across to people who are not accountants. So basically, what I'm saying is, just expect anything. It could be anything in any order. It's not a prescriptive exam, unlike all the others. You just need to do as much practice as you possibly can. So, we've mentioned about grading. The pass mark is still 70%. That hasn't changed. But if you will get an overall grade for the level, so as your percentage average goes up, you can then get a merit and you get a distinction, and you'll get a final overall grade. But like I say, the AAT are still set competency at 70%. Now, one thing I want to stress here, I cannot stress this enough, is the exam is split into two sections. So you've got two halves of an exam. You've got the first bit, you've got the second bit. You need to treat these as two 1.5 hour exams. They're not, it's not like your individual unit exams where you can go in, skip to task 6, come back to task 1 if you didn't fancy it. Once you move into the second section, you cannot go back to the first question. You are stuck in the second question. So you need to make sure that all your answers for the first section, you're happy with them. Because if you're not, and you're in section 2, you cannot do anything about them. And the other thing is, what I want to stress is, it is just literally like two 1.5 hour exams, because you've got 90 minutes for each one. And if you complete the first section with 10 minutes to spare, you don't get another 10 minutes in the second section. You still only get 90 minutes. So time cannot be transferred from one section to the other. So it literally is like two 1.5 hour exams. So if you've taken time off work, traveled all over the exam centre, you studied really hard, there is no point rushing through section 1 because it will not give you extra time on section 2. You may as well spend the full hour and a half on section 1 and then move over to section 2 because when you have no choice, and then spend another hour and a half on section 2. You cannot move time from one section to another. You cannot go from one section to another. This is really, really important. So do not, whatever you do, click on that second section until you are ready. So in the first section, there will be 4 tasks. There will be questions on ethics. There will be questions on financial accounting. There will be questions on management accounting. And there will be questions on VAT. But like I say, it's not just a case of, well, let's do some calculations. So, ethics, obviously, ethics is a massive part of section 1 because it's assessed nowhere else. So there's going to be ethics embedded into everything. So there's going to be ethical implications of every single task. And like I say, you will be given a scenario for each task. So something's happened. It's a business. It'll give you who owns it, how it's structured, what it's trying to achieve, what it does, and you've got to adjust your answers for that. It's not just pure calculations. It's there's calculations, there's written questions, and it needs to be applicable to that scenario. So if it's a partnership, you need to be making suggestions that are relevant to a partnership rather than a limited company or a sole trader. So, management accounting, you've got numerical tasks, you've got written tasks. So you might need to explain cost behavior rather than just use the high-low method. So you need to explain to someone, for example, someone will say, we've doubled our turnover. We've sold twice as many units as what we did previously. Why hasn't the rent gone up? So you'll need to explain to them that rent wouldn't go up because it's a fixed cost, which is quite a sort of simple scenario. You probably get something about step costs or semi-variable costs just to make it difficult. And you've got to explain that to someone who is not an accountant. But then equally as likely, you could be given a numerical question on it. So you've got to, be prepared to explain concepts to non-accounting people. And then obviously ethics again. How can you resolve ethical threats? I mean, the easy answer is just don't do it, but it needs to be in relation to the scenario. So, for example, they might give you a question on client due diligence. Why would you do client due diligence on ABC Limited? And if you were to write, you should do client due diligence because the AT Code of Conduct expects you to do it, you'll get very few marks. If ABC Limited is a fish and chip shop and they've just borrowed £10 million to buy a chain of nightclubs, you probably want to do client due diligence on them because it's a little bit weird and they're doing something out of the box. So it needs to be related to that scenario. You can't just churn out standard answers. So it needs to be about that scenario. And one thing is going to take an integrated approach. So it might be that you're preparing a budget because someone is looking to take a bank loan out to buy a chain of nightclubs, but then you've got to bring in sort of any ethical implications of that as well. So it's like you would do in the workplace. So you wouldn't just sit there and say someone's made a VAT error, and then you would go, yeah, you can correct it. In the workplace, you then actually have to correct it. And then if the person didn't correct it or the client refused, then you've got an ethical implication. It just stops you looking at things in sort of isolation. So it is meant to be, I think it is a bit more, for want of a technical word, vocational. So it is what you would do in the workplace. But to cut a long story short, there will be 4 tasks. Anything could come up in anything in a task. You might get lots of written questions about certain subjects. You might get numerical questions about certain subjects. You just got to expect anything. You can move between the 4 tasks in section 1. So section 1 you can move around fine. It's just you've got to stay within section 1 for a full hour and a half. So written points. Because what it is, when people get into level 4 or the professional stage, as it is called now, people get written questions and they go, oh, God, I don't like this. And the students don't like written questions because they're accountants, like putting numbers into calculators, all right doing. So what it is stop that big hit of going from level 3 to level 4 and going, oh my God, these written questions are awful, is you have written questions at every level now. So even the foundation level, you will get written questions. And it's just to make it easier for you to go into that level. So the main point is, make it relevant. If something's not relevant, if something's not interesting, why are you writing about it? So it only needs to be, something of note. Like I say, pick up info from the information that is given to you. That information there is given to you for a reason. They don't often really try and give you information that's just not relevant at all, because what's the point of writing that? So make sure that the information there you've read and you're using it because it's there for a reason. Likewise, write off. I mean, we're not looking for essays here. Remember, you've got 4 tasks. It's an hour and a half exam, effectively, and you've got numerical stuff. So we're not looking for essays. But, something along the lines, if you do a flex budget or you're given a flex budget and it says, well, what are your thoughts on this? And you say, oh, the company's had a good year. It's beaten the sales budget. A guy off the street could tell you one number's bigger than another. You need to go, further than that and need to say, the company's sold more units. Our company put its price up. Just show that little bit of further detailed knowledge to explain what's happened and why. And again, the questions will not be state. They won't say state the fundamental principle because that sort of question state can be done with a drag and drop box or true and false things that can be automatically marked, and that saves money. So when they say explain, they have to pay a marker. So with explain, you need to be explaining. You don't want to just be giving fundamental principles. You need to be saying why that fundamental principle is under threat. You need to say what a person should do. So always write more than just one sentence because one sentence is not what we're looking for at all. Likewise, it's a synoptic exam. it's meant to test on everything at every every unit. So think about the bigger picture. Don't just think about the one minor little thing. It will have some things will have further ramifications on other things. For example, the VAT correction. A, they can do it, but B, if they're not, there's ethical implications as well. It's not just the VAT rules that you need to know. Likewise, impact and extent. If something's really, really serious, state that it's serious. Don't just assume everything has the same impact. If something's not particularly interesting, if it's not going to make any difference to the business, you probably should be right about it, to be honest. And like I say, an integrated approach. It might not be that the written question is just about flex budget. It could bring in, a flex budget and some ethical implications and bring things together. So it should be the whole scenario will affect your written questions because there's lots going on there. And one good sort of technique to get into the habit of is using the sort of acronym P. So make a point, because you've got to have a point, or the answer's pointless. And you've got to explain your point. You've got to say why whatever you're saying is interesting, and then apply it. Apply it to the scenario. The scenario is there for a reason. It's meant to be a scenario, work-based exam. So you need to bring those points from the scenario into your answer. Cool. Has anyone got any questions about the written questions? Because nobody likes written questions, but it's one of those things that it's also quite hard to do the written questions and mark yourself. So if you've got a training provider or a tutor, I would suggest whenever you do a written question, send it to your tutor to get it to mark, because you might write something and think, oh, that's brilliant, and it's rubbish. Or you might write something that you think, oh, it's not very good because it doesn't match your training provider's model answer. But what you've written is actually quite irrelevant and you would still get marks. It's just not exactly the same. Good question, Lisa. It's not going to be loads. It's not going to be minimal. It can vary because obviously each task, so task 1, 2, 3, 4, are drawn from a bank of questions. So task 1, you could have two people sit in the same exam. The odds are they won't get the same task 1, but if they do, they definitely won't get the same task 2. So you might get one question that's a bit more heavily weighted towards written questions, another question is a little bit less heavily weighted. But over 4 tasks, it should sort of average itself out. Good question, Linda. No, it's not like back when I did AAT. It's going back when I had paper exams and you did it in December and June. You had to get 70% in each section. It was split into 2 sections, and if you failed one section, you couldn't put you'd failed the exam. It's now the pass mark is still 70% for the entire paper. So your spreadsheets could technically bring up any sort of weaknesses in ethics. So that it's not effectively 2 exams when it comes to marking. It's just 2 exams in terms of navigating it around and time. It's an overall pass mark of 70% for the Synoptic. So don't worry about that. So that's section 1. That will have ethics, advanced bookkeeping, final accounts preparation, management accounting, costing, indirect tax in it, and it's 4 tasks. That's one exam. Then you've finished your hour-and-a-half exam and you haven't moved into it sooner. You'll move into section 2. This is all about spreadsheets, and it's just purely about spreadsheets. There is no ethics or anything here you're glad to know. So once you finish task 1, it is all spreadsheets, and it is pretty much the similar sort of thing that we would expect you to do in an AQ 2013 spreadsheets exam. So you're entering data, you're manipulating data, you're using if statements, VLOOKUPs to present data, graphs, formatting, usual thing. There's nothing particularly sort of new and interesting coming in for AQ 2016 with regard to spreadsheets. However, it's an hour-and-a-half exam. The amount that we expect you to do will be less, and because you've literally just got less time, really. But anything and everything could come up again. Again, unlike AQ 2013 spreadsheets, this is marked by AAT. So on ethics and spreadsheets, your provider on AQ 2013 could mark it within a day. I've done it in hours before and said, here's a provisional pass, well done. You don't get that. It's marked by AAT. So you will have to wait 6 weeks for your results for this. You can't get like an advanced mark on spreadsheets like you used to be able to. And it works in effectively the same way as the AQ 2013 exam. So you'll be given some raw data. to work with. You'll have to add to it. You'll have to manipulate it. You'll download that. You'll work in Excel, saving all your work frequently. You'll save it onto your desktop, and then you have to upload it back into what is called Secure Assess. The downloading and uploading is not an accessible task, therefore your exam invigilator can help you with that. So don't worry about that. It's just a bit in between where entering data and manipulating it. That's the bit you've got to change. So that's it. The second half of it, if you're well prepared, should be fairly straightforward, to be honest. Spreadsheets is a nice unit anyway, to be honest, I quite like it. So don't overly worry about this one. It's the first half of the exam where it could be anything from those 5 units, and it can vary an awful lot. Now, so that's the second half. Like I say, we don't get to see the real exams on AQ 2016 for spreadsheets like we do for AQ 2013, because on AQ 2013 we mark them. But the feedback we're getting is that the second half is nice. So don't overly worry about that. But again, it's marked by AT, so that you just got to wait for results. And obviously, it's the Synoptic exam. It has to be the last exam you sit at this level, so there will be that 6-week wait where you're not sure whether you've completed or not. There is no reason why you couldn't move on to the professional level straight away. The only danger is if you didn't pass the Synoptic, you'd have to go back to it. That's not the end of the world. I'm sure you're all the best students that there are, so you wouldn't have any issues with passing it anyway. But just beware, you will have that 6-week wait where you're not AAT advanced level qualified, but there's nothing you can do about it. You're just waiting. So, and the other big change is on AQ 2016, the Synoptic exams, unlike the individual unit assessment, are not on demand. So the individual unit assessment, just like AQ 2013, you'll ring your exam centre, say, are you free tomorrow? That's a good exam centre, and they'll say, yeah, and you go, right, then fine. The Synoptic exams are in Windows, and for the foundation level, it's pretty much a case of when is it not available. So for any 4-week period, it's not available for 1 week. However, the advanced level and the foundation and the professional level, it's once every 6 weeks. So just by sheer coincidence, there is one next week of the advanced level, and then the professional level is the week after that. So if is anyone actually sitting their Synoptic exam next week? No. Right. Yeah. So but yeah, so if you didn't sit next week, you wouldn't get another go until May, and then after that you've got July, and then it tends to take a break for the summer. So the ones after that go into sort of September, because the world of AAT shuts down effectively for summer holidays. So yeah, just bear in mind. And the other thing I would suggest is, obviously there's an awful lot of people wanting to sit exams those weeks, because that's the 1 week they can only sit there at Synoptic. Those exams bookings are going to be really popular. And I would suggest, if you haven't booked it for May, I would book it now, because we do hear stories of some exam centres will not accept external students for that week, when every other day of the week for any other unit they would, because they've got their own students who will only be sitting exams in their centre that day. And obviously, if you're an exam centre, you've only got so many computers, you can only fit so many people through in a week, and if you've got your own students, they're going to prioritise them. So if you haven't booked your exam, I definitely would. Don't expect it to be like at these individual unit assessments where if the room's free, you can have it, because the room is very unlikely to be free. So I'd just be very wary of that. I mean, so far we've not had any issues. I've not heard of any stories of any students saying I couldn't get in. But you've got to remember, AQ 2016 started on the 1st of September. So most people doing the advanced stage, professional stage, are not near finishing, because it takes a good 9 months, 12 months, sort of respectively, to finish the that sort of level. So it's normally May. I'd expect a lot of people to come around to finish in the advanced stage. Again, July, loads and loads of people don't want to be studying over the summer holidays. They've got the kids at home. It's not really practical. So loads of people will want to be booking their synoptic in July to get it over and done with before the school holidays. So the main July ones are going to be really popular. So if you're planning on sitting the synoptic for either of those dates, I would get it booked. I really would. If you're not going to be sitting in them, the September one will be dead. There'll be loads of free space there because loads of people start in September. They're not looking to finish their last level. But I think I've stressed that enough. You know, so far the AT have not had issues with capacity in terms of exam centres, but obviously it's an unknown quantity because the vast majority of people on AQ 2016 will not have come around to their synoptic exam as yet. So, cut long story short, get it booked. And the thing is, because you've only got 1 in 6 weeks, per window, you know when you're going to be sitting that exam. It's not like sort of advanced bookkeeping where you've got a 2-week, 3-week slip or slide. It's got to be that week or nothing. That's just the way they did. They are looking at to increase capacity for 2018 in terms of synoptic windows. Not that that helps you. It's for technical reasons, and obviously they like to keep changing the questions, which need writing, and obviously the scenario based. And the other thing is, there's only 4 tasks, so it's more and more likely that people will be sitting similar exams. It's not like where what's a good example? For example, like elements of costing at level, the foundation level, that's like 17 tasks. The odds of every task being exactly the same as 2 exams is so remote. But task 1 and 4, it's fine. In terms of pass rate, yeah, actually. I mean, to be fair, it's not a massive sample because not lots of people got to it. But I don't know if anyone's seen the interesting stories about management account decision control on AQ 2016. It's not like that. It is. We're finding that people, if they're well prepared, done the work, they'll pass the exam. It's reasonably straightforward. But again, there's not loads of people gone through it. And the AT haven't released any official pass rates yet for AQ 2016, which I'm dying to see for management account decision and control. So this is sort of anecdotal feedback and feedback taken from our students. And yeah, no issues really. It's the odd little weird question come up, but then it's a very different exam. But what I've been stressing to my students is just do all the mocks you can get your hands on it. Don't think you've passed one mock, you'll be fine for the exam because you don't. So we've been using lots and lots of different mocks written by lots and lots of different people, all in very different styles. Get your hands on as many mocks as you possibly can, do as many as you possibly can. Fine for booking for the 21st of April for the July one now. Yeah, I mean April to July. That's ages away. 3 months. So I would get twitchy if you left it to within a month. Really, I do not leave it less than a month because, like I say, if you can't get a booking, you'll have to go somewhere else. You'll have to pay some ridiculous fee because they know they've got you, or you'll go wait another 6 weeks. So just I would suggest book it way before a month in advance. But 21st of April, yeah, fine. In terms of mocks, are you with a training provider, Emma? I mean, there are AAT sample assessments online that comes with your. Well, I presume Newark College will provide you with books, and Kaplan, BPP, Osborne, other books are available. They will have mocks in, I assume. The colleges tend not to have a tendency of writing their own mocks. We've also got the AT sample assessments. But yeah, there's lots of mocks out there. You may need to purchase them if the college doesn't provide them. But yeah, don't forget you've got AT sample assessments. But yeah, your tutors, I mean, I don't know Newark College, but I assume your tutors wouldn't want you to sit that exam unless you're prepared. And the only way to get prepared for this is to do a mock exam. So they should provide them. But yeah, don't forget you also got AAT sample assessments as well. But like I say, everything is just a guide. We are finding on AQ 2016 occasionally in some units, management account decision control being a good example, the AT sample assessments are what the AT call are just indicative of the real exam. What that means is they don't look anything like the real exam. So just beware, it's just the standard of questions you might get, not always the same format. Cool. So moving on, just to sort of summarize, during the 3-hour window, you'll present with a range of tasks. So if there's some of which will require you to provide a written answer, you will have to provide some written answers to some degree. One of the key things is being able to explain accounting concepts to people who are not accountants. So expect to state the obvious. So you might say, "Oh, yeah, we've put the sales price up." You need to be able to say, "We've put the sales price up. This will increase profit." So you'll need to say, say the cost per unit has gone up, but the sales price per unit has gone up by more. You need to state the obvious and say, "This, despite the increase in cost, will mean the profit will go up." There will be marks available, and the mark scheme will be quite strict. So there'll be markers there that go, "Have they stated this?" It's absolutely obvious, and you might think, "I'm not writing that because it's obvious." You will miss that mark. So always make sure you take every point to the nth degree and show what it will actually do. Don't just assume that the marker will go, "Yeah, I know what's going on there. That's a good point." We've really got to state it. It says there you're encouraged to process the tasks in the advanced synoptic assessment in the order presented. You've got to do all at some point. So you can move around section 1, to be honest, if you want. It wouldn't be the end of the world if you start with section 4, work backwards. No idea why you would want to. If like I said, there's only 4 tasks. So each of those tasks has a massive, weighting of marks. So, if you miss one or skip one, you're really going to be struggling to pass this exam. So what I suggest, how you prepare for your synoptic exam, assume you've passed the other 4 individual units. You've then got to study ethics and spreadsheets. Go back to the other 4 papers. Like I say, within some synoptic material, you might get a revision depending on the provider. Some you might just have to go back to your original books. So revise all them. Then start doing the mocks. But do not expect the exam to be like the mocks. I cannot stress that enough. Spend time working on as many exam types questions as possible. So, if you see some old, I don't suppose anyone will be selling them on eBay just yet, but if you see someone selling some second-hand ones, get them. Do as many mocks as you possibly can. Good question, Natalia. You'll be very pleased to hear that this is a test of your ethical understanding and your spreadsheet knowledge. It is not a test of your spelling, punctuation, or grammar. If you spell something wrong, that's fine. If your grammar's a bit rubbish, that's fine. The only thing is it must be understandable. So it's a bit like the ethics one at level 3 that I mark. So if I mark one of those exams, if I see something and I know exactly what the student's trying to say, it's just not spelt very well and grammar's a bit poor, I can give you the mark. I just don't want to be in a situation where someone like the internal verifier will go and see something that I've marked and they say, like, that clearly doesn't make any sense. And it has to be justifiable to someone else that what you've done is sensible. It's not a test of spelling though. It's just, so don't worry about that. Don't worry about making it look perfect and laying it all out. Ideally you would, but don't worry about that at all. And like I say, practice your written questions especially. So one of the key things you got to remember is, so correcting journals, for example, say advanced bookkeeping. They've tested that in the unit assessment. It's not going to be a massive part of the synoptic exam testing that you can enter journals because they've already tested that. Why? They know you can do it, so they're not going to test you again. So what you want to do is be able to explain journals and things like that, because the written questions and things like that are things that they've not had a chance to test you on before. So that sort of thing is going to be key. So asking you to just do like a basic, small flex budget, it might come up, but it's from an AT's examiner's point of view, it's not all exciting. They know you can do that. But it's more of a case of you have to do something numerical and then use that as a base for your written questions. So I cannot stress how important written questions are. So that's how I suggest it. You're going to have to go back to your mandatory unit, well, all mandatory advanced level, go back to the other 4 with the individual unit assessments, whether that your provider will give you some material, broken down within the Synoptic, like we do, or you'll just have to go back to your course notes. Either way, you need to revisit them. But yeah, focus on written questions, and if possible, get your tutor or someone to mark them, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're writing something and you think it's really good and it's just not. Or you don't want to be in a situation where you just don't sit exam because you don't think your written questions are good enough. And actually they are, they're just not the same as the model answer. As long as it's sensible and relevant, and you will get marks. So it might be a case of that you're getting plenty of marks. It's just different to the model exam answers. So if you can, get it marked by someone else. Cool. Has anyone got any questions on Synoptic Exam or AQ 2016 generally? If you do have any sort of pressing questions, my email address is nickcraggs@fi.co.uk, but you should have that anyway on my email to the link to the webinar. Like I say, I will email out the recording and slides to this webinar afterwards. It probably won't be tonight because it's 8 o'clock at night. So it'll probably be tomorrow or the day after. But yeah, if you've got any questions or queries, please come back to me. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Cool. So unless anyone has any burning questions about to pop up in the next couple of minutes, I will let you all go, theme. But I appreciate you all coming. I hope you took something away. And for anyone who's sitting the Synoptic exam, good luck.